This is Barbara with Cana Girl Speaks podcast. My voice, your voice. Good evening, everybody. This is Barbara with the Cana Girl Speaks podcast, and I am so excited to be recording on this evening. And I always want to say thank you always for supporting the Cana Girl Speaks podcast, watching us on YouTube and listening to us on any of the podcast sites. So this evening, I have a special guest that I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. But I want to say thank you for coming on. And so without further ado, let me introduce you to Dr. Diane Frost.
I'm Diane Frost, the superintendent for Corsicana ISD.
Well, welcome. And I wanted to bring you on. I wanted to bring her on because we are leading up until the first, tomorrow will be the first day of school for Corsicana, but we are in the season of back to school. So I just wanted to bring her on and just talk about back to school and just, getting our parents, getting the community into the spirit of back to school, because we know when school starts, it's like busy, especially for parents, And so Dr. Frost, why don't you tell the listening audience a little bit about who Dr. Frost is?
Well, this is my 13th year as superintendent in Corsicana ISD, and I just love the city. I love the school district, and the students who will be our seniors this year were my kindergartners.
Oh, wow.
The first year that I started.
Yes.
So I've just been so fortunate to have, great school board members like Ms. Kelley, great staff. I've grown to know and love this town, and I've gotten to watch our students grow up. And this year we hired 22 now of our graduates.
Oh, wow.
Back
Wow.
as teachers in Corsicana. So that makes me really proud. That's what educators work for.
How long have you been in education?
Oh my goodness. Over 35 years.
Yeah, so
a long
she's
time.
got a lot of experience,
Yes. I started as a teacher. I taught English, and at the high school level, I taught special education classes, and I was a principal and central office staff member, interim superintendent, deputy superintendent. I've had a lot of different types of education positions.
Yeah, so when she first came to Corsicana as the superintendent, she was actually the first female superintendent for our city. So that was to me, that was very motivating for, our young ladies, our women, that, women can be leaders, and so, you having your, being over 30-something years in education, do you see a lot of changes in education? I know technology is so, it's out there,
Right.
and so what can you say has really changed over the years that you've been in education?
Technology significantly. We didn't have computers, certainly not cell phones.
Yeah.
And we have just really evolved. And I think having the information at our fingertips has changed the way we think about learning and the way that we know that students learn. So we would take students to the library to do their research, and now all the research and the information that they need is sitting there at their desk with them, either on a laptop or they can look it up on their cell phones. It's just completely changed the face of education, and it's so important now that students learn how to be wise consumers of information.
Yeah.
Before we tried to find that information, we documented where we found it, and we tried to pull it together in a coherent way. And now it's so critical that our students learn just to be savvy about information. There's so much misinformation out there, and there's so much available at their fingertips that finding it is no longer the problem. Now it is filtering through and knowing what to believe and not believe, and what to do with that once they have it.
So when you talk about the changes in education, I've been kind of paying attention to. Have you heard about the metaverse? Where everything is like virtual, and it's kind of like, oh my goodness. And so, to me, a book in your hand is just as valuable as just reading it or hearing it audible. And so I know you said you were in English, and so how important is it for, to retain some of that?
People like to learn in different ways. And I am now, I'm a fan of having my books on my iPad
Oh,
and things
okay.
like that. I didn't used to be. It was a little transition for me because I'm just a reader. I want to
Mhm.
have one book ready to go as soon as I finish the book I'm reading. But for our students, it's just so it's organic for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them how they see it. And what I appreciate with the books is, like, if there's a word that a student doesn't know the definition of, they can click on that and it takes them directly to knowing things. And again, that information is just there at their fingertips. So even though that, if you're sitting at the beach or you're on an airplane, you want to hold that book in your hand, and that's really important. I think that we have to let our students learn how to learn in both ways. And we have to understand that people have different learning styles. Just like
Yeah.
you like to hold a book,
Yeah.
sometimes I do too, but we can learn every way that the information's there.
So what advice can you give young parents? Because, we have a lot of young parents, especially with literacy and, math, the new math, so what advice can you give our young parents, especially those that are getting ready to start school, the early, childhood? What's the important, what's something important you want to say to them?
Get your kids to read with your kids, allow your kids to read to you. That's the most important thing that they do, is read, and be very cautious about screen time.
Yeah.
It's very concerning to me when I see students or children that can't go to a restaurant, can't go to the grocery store without sitting and looking at something animated on a screen. Those are wonderful learning opportunities for parents to involve their children in conversations, and to teach math in a grocery store. There's so
Yeah.
many ways that you can learn, and it is very concerning to me for students to have so much screen time now, and they can get into certainly things that parents don't want them
Yeah.
to be seeing at a very early age. I think that's very frightening.
So, what's the future of education?
The future of education is going to be based in a technology world.
Oh, wow.
When you look at that, we had students and teachers who were thrown into the online learning. And I think now we're in a time period where we see that as a combination of the two. I don't think anything can ever replace a teacher-student relationship and a teacher being in a classroom with a
Yeah.
student. But that doesn't mean that's the only way that students can learn. Sometimes that's the best way that they can process and learn what to do with information. But students can learn from computers, and when that's handled the right way and with the right teachers, that's a very valuable resource.
What about careers? As far as our careers. When we were growing up, we were like, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a firefighter. So what have you seen? What kind of careers have you seen that have evolved in education as far as teaching and the kids learning?
There's so much out there now about coding.
Yeah.
That was a big buzzword in the last several years, and that's critical because it's understanding the systems behind what we see on a computer, and that's going to be a critical piece of knowledge for students in the future. I don't think we even have the jobs existing that
Yeah.
our students will be needing to be able to do. So what we do is teach them how to think, how to be creative, how to understand and problem solve.
Yeah.
And those are the skills that they'll take out into the workforce. And that way, when those new jobs come down the pike, they're ready learners. They
Yeah.
know how to learn how to do something new. And that's going to be just as important as some of those other skills that we spend a lot of time on.
So I'm a new, so let's just say I'm a new parent. My child's going to kindergarten for the first time. How can you calm my nerves as far as, we talk about safety and security, we all want to, address the elephant in the room. So how can you make parents know that it's going to be safe, whatever campus, whatever school district you go to, that how the importance of it, there is safety and security in the district, in the school.
Corsicana ISD has gone to great lengths.
Yeah.
To make sure that our students are safe and our staff members are safe. One of the things are the weapon detectors, and those are on all of our campuses now. We have police officers on all of our campuses, and it's interesting because our community knows we have that and expects that, but that's very unusual for school districts to have. Not very many districts have police officers on campus, and we do. And that's a critical piece because when something comes as a requirement that whether we put it in place or whether it's something that comes from the state, we have our officers who were there and able to carry that out. The most important thing that our officers do, however, is just to be present and to develop those relationships with our students. I think that's just a critical piece of their job. It's important for them to walk the campus, to check the doors, to do all those police officer things, but they're there and they're a calming presence, and they develop those relationships and even help with leadership development in our students.
So what about parent involvement? How important? I mean, Coach Sardania was on last, and he talked about how important parent involvement. So say something a little bit about parent involvement.
For students to know that their parents have good relationships with their teachers and their administrators and ongoing relationships, not just a come to meet the teacher night, but that their parents can call the teacher will call them about day-to-day things. And just knowing that your parent cares about what's going on in your classroom is absolutely critical. And, parents are busy. So having that time when a child comes home to say, how was your day? Show me what you learned. Let's read, a page, a chapter out of this book. What did you do at school today? Just have that positive conversation with your student is really critical because it helps the child know that my mom and my dad care about what happened at school, and they're going to ask me about it, and they want to know those things.
Well, Dr. Frost, I really do appreciate you coming on and taking the time out to be on the podcast. Is there anything you want to say to the parents, to those that are listening, and those out in the listening audience? Anything else you want to say to them as they start the new school year?
Just that we're so pleased and so excited to be starting a new school year. I have just felt a great vibe on campuses. You know how you can walk onto a campus, you can see the many students and parents who are coming to meet the teachers night, see their classrooms for the first time. They're so excited. And then it's also wonderful to see the teachers there and see how much they look forward to those students arriving tomorrow. So it's been a wonderful time, especially since the teachers have been back, and we can't wait to get our students in our classrooms and just to see them in the hallway and see them learning.
Well, exciting times for our parents and our administrators and our teachers, and so I'm excited. So I always give my guests an opportunity to give their shout outs. Anybody like to give the shout out? So who would you like to give a shout out to?
I just want to give a shout out to our principals. They've worked so hard, and our teachers who've worked hard getting their classrooms ready, and then my family. My family is probably my greatest support. My husband Ken and our daughters and son-in-law, and I have 3 grandchildren who are pretty wonderful. So all of my family is very special to me.
Well, she's excited about the school year, and I am too. And so I just want to say to everybody that has kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews that are getting ready to start school, y'all have a great school year. And like she said, parent involvement, be involved with your kids' extracurricular activities, things they do in the classroom, because that does make a difference. And I want to always say thank you for supporting the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. Thank you so much, Dr. Frost, for coming on to the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. So with that being said, I want to say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
This is a Legacy Recording Studio production.